Welcome to the Carl Jackson Show podcast, your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. Governor Gavin Newsom bent the knee to Xi. Kathy Hochul wants a surveillance state in the state of New York. So does Gavin Newsom. We'll explain more about that. But I think here's what I want to do. I want to start here. We've got plenty more to bring to you, by the way, but I want to start here. Here was a horrendous video of 15 boys beating up and essentially murdering a young white boy. There's not going to be any media outrage on this, but I want you to watch the video. This is a very hard video to watch, so I'm going to just, brace yourself for this. It's going to be graphic. And then I'm just going to give you my quick takeaway point after the video. Gabe, man, and I got to tell you, I'm a squeamish person when it comes to stuff like this. I'll be completely honest with you guys. And I'm starting to see so much of it. I don't want to say that I'm quite numb, but this is becoming so normal to me. I fear that I'm getting there. Let's roll the video.
Video is making the rounds online, showing what's believed to be the fight that happened Wednesday afternoon. Metro officers responding to reports of a student fight across the street from Rancho High School. The investigation revealing the victim got into a physical altercation with 15 people before cops arrived.
Nothing that large, like 3 people maybe, but like 15, I've never heard of that before.
Rancho High Junior Antonio Green says he's a classmate and saw the video.
It could happen to anybody. It could happen for me just because I have a natural mean face. It could happen to me just from looking at somebody the wrong way.
Neighbor Greg Bostick was shocked to see it.
From the video, that's a problem. You can't just retaliate with hate, and get back and revenge all the time. Sometimes you got to talk it out.
Off camera, a neighbor tells us that he helped carry the victim to the campus parking lot. Bostick says he saw the aftermath.
Somebody was laying on the ground, and they were out of commission and incapacitated.
Metro says the victim appeared to be unconscious when school staff performed CPR.
Right in that parking lot, I saw somebody getting chest compressions and CPR. The police came, ambulance, fire truck, and they kind of dealt with it.
All right, so here's the deal. This is just a symptom. This is just a symptom of a greater disease and probably a couple of diseases, but let's start here. This is what happens when you get the system that raises men rather than fathers in the home raising their men, and the same way in which these young men, mostly black men, young and minorities, I know there were at least a couple other races that appear to be there, but as they beat Jonathan Lewis to death, could you imagine if these fools had a dad in the home that would beat their behinds and make sure that they behaved in the street so that they would never act that way in the street? So this is a symptom of a greater disease. This is also what happens when you teach black kids that they're the victims and white people are the constant oppressors. They start looking at people in a different way. So some of you teachers and all you woke, woke fools out there, to me, you're complicit in this behavior that we're starting to see. Another point, this is what happens when you have these soft on crime, but only if you're on the left DAs, because these people believe that they can get away with crimes like this nowadays because there's not going to be any media outrage for Jonathan Lewis. Why won't there be media outrage for Jonathan Lewis? Let's be honest, because he's white, because he does not fit the narrative. If that was a black boy getting beat to death by white boys, it would be all over the news. Joe Biden would be running it in his election campaign. Ads all over the place saying these are Trumpsters, beating up on a young black man. That's what would be happening, but we don't see it here. And I got to say this because I've seen this online. I've seen some people, even some black, conservatives saying, listen, there are going to be some blacks that are going to kind of take advantage of this and, try to make money off of it and this and that, and it doesn't represent the entire black community. Of course it doesn't represent the entire black community. Everybody's got some damn common sense. We know that. But here's the thing. I'm not going to minimize and I'm not going to make excuses for the criminal element that exists within the black community. Jonathan Lewis should be alive today. He is dead in part. There's no reason for him to be dead. But I tell you what, if he were black, he'd be getting a lot more media attention. All right, let's move on. Oh man, this just frustrates me. I don't want to stay there. Listen, It just frustrates me. I'm sorry. Let's go to Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom, this is pretty unfreaking believable. I want you to hear this clip. And I'm going to share with you some news stories as well that are happening. Guys, I'm telling you right now, listen to me. 2024 is the last election. We better get it right, and we better fight hard to make sure that our candidate wins. Do not pay attention to any of the polling. There are conservatives that are making a buttload of money, in my opinion, just like the other guy accused us of, making a buttload of money and getting a lot of clicks by focusing on polls. But we've already seen what happened in Kentucky, Virginia, Ohio, even though there were better results in Virginia last week, in Mississippi, where Tate Reeves should have just absolutely blown away the field. Thank God he won, but the numbers should have been much larger, in my opinion. We're already seeing what's happening when you have Republicans paying attention to polls instead of getting their butts out and getting voters motivated and inspired to get out and vote. So stop hyping up the polls and start inspiring people to get out to vote. Now, having said that, let me get back to this governor, Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom bends the knee to Xi Jinping. He cleans up San Francisco for Xi Jinping. I guarantee you, Gavin Newsom can tell you what Xi Jinping's, or if he hasn't already, he will be able to tell you how Xi Jinping's farts smell, because his head will be so far up Xi Jinping's butt, kissing that booty. All right. So here's Gavin Newsom. Here's what he had to say about cleaning up the disastrous city that is San Francisco. Wait. And before we play the video game, before we play the video, this is good stuff. All right. So before we play the video, guys, let me remind you, commercial real estate is an absolute disaster, not just around the country, but specifically in places like San Francisco, where landlords have officially just walked away, given up their keys to commercial real estate, because you have the Democrats that are running these blue cities that are letting them go to hell, go to hell with gasoline draws on. Homelessness everywhere, crime abound, drug use, and people that should be in mental institutions walking the streets like they're absolute zombies, and they call that compassion. But here's what Gavin Newsom decides to do. He won't clean up the city for you, right? You're a California resident. I'll get to that in just a second. But here's what he's going to do for the communist Xi Jinping. And then we're going to encapsulate everything I just said after your jaw drops after listening to this video and watching this video. Oh, by the way, speaking of video, guys, please join me. All things social media at The Carl Jackson Show. I need you to subscribe to my YouTube channel and also to my Rumble channel. Okay, por favor, please subscribe. You'll get the show right in your inbox. I'm not begging you for a thing, all right? So The Carl Jackson Show is where you can find me wherever you go to get your podcast. But if you want to watch the video, we're on YouTube and we are on Rumble. And we appreciate you following us so much. Also, this show is brought to you by MyPillow.com. Mike Lindell at MyPillow.com has some fabulous deals available for you leading into this Christmas season. If you go to the Radio Podcast Square, again, the Radio Podcast Square at the top of the page, enter my name, Carl, C-A-R-L, and all of those deals will be available to you, or give them a call at 800-858-0263. Giza Dream Sheets. You want to sleep good, feel good at the same time, 50% off. There are other products, some that are over 60% off, but a lot of great products to shop for or to shop from on MyPillow.com. Even dog beds, but they got mattress toppers, My Slippers, the My Pillow 1.0, My Pillow 2.0, you name it. All there at MyPillow.com, and you get the satisfaction of knowing you're supporting American jobs and American manufacturing. And not only do you get a great deal, but you get a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. Now, having said that, let's go to the wannabe communist that is Gavin Newsom in San Francisco as he prepares and the city prepares for an APEC convention. Let's roll the tape. Por favor, Gib.
Folks say, oh, they're just cleaning up this place because all those fancy leaders are coming into town. That's true, because it's true. But it's also true.
Look at the people in the background laughing.
Months and months prior to APEC, We've been having different conversations.
You almost have to play that again. It's so stupid. That's true because it's true. They're laughing. They're laughing in the background. They are laughing in the background. The mayor's laughing in the background. They know this is a complete and utter joke because they wouldn't do this any other time. So just think about this. Just think about what happens. First off, I want you to imagine this. Imagine the propaganda that's now circulating in China as a result of that video, as a result of that press conference with Gavin Newsom. And then I just want you to think about how little Gavin Newsom thinks of you if you happen to be a California resident, and particularly a San Franciscan, if you will. So Gavin Newsom will clean up the street for one communist dictator, but he will not clean up the streets of San Francisco for the people that invest and live there and pay the taxes there. Think about that. That's how little he thinks of you. See, you've convinced Gavin Newsom in California that he's the boss and you're not the boss. So since he believes that he's the boss, he's only going to clean it up when he feels like it. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? And what about this? What did they do with the homeless people there? What did they do with all the poop? What did they do with all the needles? Where did all of that stuff go? Did he disappear the homeless people just like Xi Jinping disappears dissidents in China? It's weird. It's weird. Kind of amazing to know that they can clean up the city of San Francisco, Democrats can, whenever they want to. They're just choosing not to do it. Why? You better start asking yourself this question. All right, now, moving on. Let's go to the third video. Now, I think I'm going to have a different take on this, all right? So I want to share this video with you guys real quick. This is a bunch of illegal aliens that have come into our country, broken into our country with the help of the Biden administration and Alejandro Mayorkas. And by the way, we'll get to that story in just a second, where 8 Republicans have refused to impeach Alejandro Mayorkas. Apparently, they want to go through the regular order of things when we're not living in regular times. But anyway, I'll get to that in just a second here. But I want you to watch this video. Let's go ahead and roll this tape. Por favor, Geba. So these people are dissatisfied, right? They were literally sent to tent camps in New York. They are not satisfied with the tent camps. Many of them end up getting right back on the bus and saying, nah, this is not for me. We prefer the 4-star hotels that you were giving us that you were giving us at first. Look at them getting right back on the bus. It's saying not in service, and they're like, yes, it is in service, because we are getting right back on.
Thanks for telling me about this.
Oh, this is funny. They got off and got right back on. All right, so let me just give you my take again, because now we're recirculating. So here's a story. It's originally posted at Fox News. New York City illegal immigrants taking a tent city try leaving as soon as they arrive. That's what you just watched. So the first batch of migrants was bused to a makeshift tent city in Brooklyn on Sunday and took one look and were ready to leave. The controversial tent shelter at Brooklyn's Floyd Bennett Field, which has drawn widespread criticism for its remote location among many other concerns, is set to house nearly 2,000 illegal immigrants. They're saying migrants, but the first busload abandoned the site after taking view of the site. Now, all right, so many people will be, and this is what you'll hear all the time, and honestly, this is probably where I would have been, but I just thought through this just a little bit, and I think I've arrived at a different conclusion, because you'll hear a lot of conservatives saying, listen, they better take what they're given. They're breaking into our country, and they have the audacity. You got to say it like that, Gabe, because it has more impact. So they have the audacity to say, listen, we want better living conditions. I don't blame them. They weren't the ones dumb enough, or their leaders weren't the ones dumb enough to open their country up. I'm sorry. So I'm like, and how do we know? How do we know that these sanctuary cities and these tent cities aren't dirty as hell compared to where they've come from? See, that's the big lie. A lot of these people that are coming here, that the Mexican cartels are bringing here, and that the Biden administration, in collusion with the Mexican cartels, are allowing to come in to this country. Oftentimes, they come from better living conditions in their own country, from like a middle class situation, and then they come here. Children are sex trafficked, men forced to do hard labor, women forced to take service jobs, and Lord knows whatever else they're used to. A lot of these people were living better lives where they came from. So the real solution is to send their behinds not to Tent City, but back to their own damn country. That's where they should be going. And that's where they should stay. All right, moving on. Gabe, I have to say, so far, this has been freaking brilliant. Okay, now, just a couple of more topics that I'd like to cover here, por favor. Let me go. I'm sorry. I have them on my phone. Oh, for one, you guys hear about this chick, Naomi Biden, and the Secret Service that was with her. Let me pull up. Apparently, there were like 3 Secret Service agents. I'm sorry. Now I'm trying to find the video, or I'm trying to find the story. Anyway, there were apparently 3 Secret Service agents that were protecting Naomi Biden. That is the granddaughter of, here it is, the granddaughter of Joe Biden. So Secret Service agents hat tip the Washington Examiner, protecting Naomi Biden fires shots after attempted vehicle break-in. So the Secret Service agents that protect Naomi Biden, again, that's Joe Biden's granddaughter, that's Hunter Biden's eldest daughter, opened fire after 3 people attempted to break into an unmarked agency vehicle inside of Washington, D.C. The agents saw 3 people breaking a window of the parked and unoccupied Secret Service vehicle while out with Naomi Biden in the Georgetown neighborhood on Sunday night. One of the agents opened fire using a service weapon. It is believed that no one was struck. And please, even if they were, would they tell us? But it is believed that no one was struck. 2 to 3 people fled the scene in a red vehicle. Secret Service spokesman Anthony Guglielmi, can't pronounce his name, Guglielmi, said on Monday the Secret Service has put out a regional bulletin to the Metropolitan Police Department. Let me just give you some of the stats, because there's these the left is always talking about how we have this. You heard Karine Jean-Pierre the other day, how we have this national crime problem. We don't have a national crime problem, guys. We have a Democrat city and perhaps county crime problem. And it may be nationwide, even if, it could be a red state. But if Democrats run a city, I guarantee you the vast majority of the cities that are run by Democrats are going to be more run down, more crime, so on, etc., particularly if these Democrats are woke. Now, that's not going to always be the case, but generally speaking, I believe it will be. Let me just give you some of the rise in crime rates that have occurred in Washington, D.C. just in the last 2 years. So carjackings are on the rise in D.C., surging 250%. Actually, in the last 5 years, there have been over 750 reported carjackings this year alone. 750 carjackings in Washington, D.C. This year alone. 75% of the carjackings in the city involved guns. This, according to Washington data. Motor vehicle theft is up 98%. Well, at least it's not 100%. So there is room for improvement. In 2023, compared to this time last year, with 6,112 reported incidents compared to 3,081 in 2022. Total property crime is up 25% from this time last year. And all crime is up 27% in Washington, D.C. It's time to move the National Archives out of Washington, D.C. Everything that's of value to the federal government, to our history, to our founding, needs to be moved out of Washington, D.C. We need to put it inside of a mountain somewhere, in Idaho or Montana or something like that. Keep that stuff away from Democrats and Democratic mayors and all that kind of good stuff. Absolutely insane. A couple more things I want to cover. I just want to make sure I do not miss. I do want to go over the Gang of Eight. Let's see. Oh, there was another thing. This was totally random. I ran across this. Not even sure if I can find the story now because I did not save it, unfortunately. But anyway, there's a memo that was circulating in the State Department signed by 100 State Department of federal employees that basically have turned on Joe Biden for supporting Israel. And I don't even think Joe Biden is supporting Israel. Frankly, it's a dissent memo. All right. But I don't think Joe Biden is even truly supporting Israel. I'll explain why in just a sec. But think about this. Think about how emboldened you have to feel, right? You work in a government job. You're sitting there telling the president of the United States what he should and should not be doing policy-wise. You can do that when it's time to vote. Otherwise, shut up. But 100 State Department employees that are fed up with Biden's quote-unquote support of of Israel. Apparently, they're pro-Hamas. Now, let me tell you why I don't even believe Joe Biden when it comes to his support for Israel. I believe it is completely inauthentic, and the winds shift. I think they try to put on a good front, at least rhetorically saying, listen, we back Israel, so on, etc. We stand with Israel. But let me read to you this first headline right on the tip sheet today. Biden is considering unlocking another $10 billion and frozen assets for Iran. So the Biden administration, through the State Department specifically, perhaps this is why the memo came out, is reportedly considering issuing a waiver to Iran that would allow access to another 10 billion buckaroonies worth of previously frozen cash, this time held in Iraq. This alarming development comes after the Biden administration and the days before Iran-backed Hamas terrorists launched their October 7th slaughter of Jews or Israelis, mostly Jews. Unfroze billions of dollars for Iran as part of a questionable prisoner swap arrangement. Since that deal was made, Iranian proxies have continued to launch attacks at Israel as well as U.S. troops in the Middle East, wounding dozens of American service members. All right. There's also been a couple of launches in Syria. Iran-backed militias that we have struck in Syria in their military or weapon depots or whatever that may be. Can you really claim that you're for Israel when you're still considering, despite the terrorist attacks by their proxies, Hamas, on October 7th, you're willing to give them another $10 billion. Can you really say that you're in support of Israel? I'm really starting, and I'm not saying this to try to be hyperbolic. I really do believe that maybe Biden is launching a proxy war against Israel, against Western ideas, because it appears that that's exactly what's happening in the United States of America. Okay, now, let me get to this last story. If I can find it. Oh, this is another one. Supreme Court announces new official code of conduct. Frankly, I really don't give a flip. I don't give a flip if they travel with their rich friends. I really don't care. What I do care about is when you're making money, like Sonia Sotomayor, since she can't sell books, forcing her staff members to go to different colleges and basically strong arm them into buying her books because they wouldn't sell otherwise. I do have a problem with that, but I don't have much of a problem with any of the justices taking trips and stuff like that from rich friends, as long as none of those people have any ties whatsoever to any of the cases that they would be looking at. And in that case, I think they should necessarily remove themselves from the case. Here's another story. Governor Kathy Hochul of New York is doing the same thing. They're basically increasing the surveillance state and the data collection state, if you will, in their states. But this one is pertaining to Gavin Newsom, before we get to the Gang of 8 here that have just ruined our chances to impeach Alejandro Mayorkas. All right, so this is from Just the News. After a trip to China, which uses a social credit score system, Gavin Newsom announced the next phase of the state's what they call the cradle to career, quote unquote, system that uses more than 1 billion data points. Quote, by leveraging billions of data points, California's cradle to career data system will be a game changer for improving the quality of life for millions of Californians and highlighting ways to improve opportunity in the classroom and access to the workforce, close quote. That's a social credit score. That's a social credit score. This is now this is Tuesday. This is early. This is one of the scariest stories coming out this week. This will be. It probably won't get the headlines that it deserves, given, or the media attention that it deserves, given Gavin Newsom cleaning up San Francisco and all that kind of stuff. But that is just a symptom of a greater disease. Gavin Newsom, Kathy Hochul, these are little wannabe Xi Jinpings. They're not trying to be Joe Biden. They're trying to be Xi Jinping. These are little wannabe Xi Jinpings. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right. So last thing, I just want to see if I can find this real quick. I need to tackle that story more. National Hamas planned much more extensive attack on October 7th. Basically, they wanted to go further into the interior and kill even more people. I'm looking for the story of 8. I do have it up. House deflects MTGs. Here, all right, here it is. I'm looking on the Daily Wire. All right, so House deflects MTG's Mayorkas impeachment resolution to committee. So the GOP-led House approved a motion from the Democrats on Monday to punt on MTG's impeachment resolution against Homeland Secretary, Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas by a 209 to 201 tally. Members voted to send the impeachment resolution to the House Homeland Security Committee, which is already investigating Mayorkas, because more than 20 lawmakers did not vote. So basically, these guys skipped out on voting. They didn't skip out. They just voted against it. Unfortunately, so this guy will not be impeached. Greene introduced a privilege resolution to force a quick vote on impeachment last week after 2 of her constituents were killed in a car crash involving a suspected human smuggler from Honduras. The Congresswoman accused Mayorkas of, quote, high crimes and misdemeanors related to his handling of border security. But apparently the 8 sat down or did not vote to impeach him because they didn't believe that a crime was committed. They just believe that he's a crappy head of the Department of Homeland Security. So Democrats pivoted from offering a motion to table the resolution to one that directed it to the Homeland Security Committee, a move that reportedly made it more palatable to some Republicans. Ultimately, 8 GOP members joined with all voting Democrats in supporting the motion. They included Representative Cliff Bentz, Ken Buck, John Duarte, Virginia Fox, Darrell Issa, which kind of surprised me, Tom McClintock, Patrick McHenry, and Mike Turner. In the lead up to the vote, Greene bemoaned how some of her colleagues preferred moving through, quote, regular order, despite overwhelming evidence, close quote, and argued that sending her resolution to the Homeland Security Committee would effectively kill the impeachment effort, where she's just likely not going to be able to get the vote. So impeaching Mayorkas is basically dead in the water, at least for now, thanks to the 8. And I guess I understand their thinking in this sense. Okay, you want to return to all things regular order, and it just doesn't work that way in anymore. And I know, listen, I'm not going to lie to you. When it comes to spending, yes, I say regular order. But this is different. You have people that are literally breaking in our country. We have special interest aliens. Our economy simply cannot take the burden of the illegal immigrants that are coming through our country and invading our country. This is an emergency, and it needs to stop. And unfortunately, it's not. There's not going to be any accountability. The only accountability, at least for now, the accountability will come, but not likely until you vote and have a say in 2024. And and by then, I just pray it's not too late. I pray that it's not too late. Guys, you have to get, even if you're not, we don't even have the same amount of people showing up in special elections. You have to vote. You have to vote. Do not pay attention to these polls. Don't waste your time looking at polls, listening to people, commenting on polls for freaking an entire show or segment, or it's insane. because you might get the impression that Republicans are going to kick booty in 2024 and in these special elections. That isn't happening. Every single race has been close, and they will remain close because the country is divided and they remain divided, and it remains divided. So you're not going to see big blowouts, and I fear that conservatives are watching these primary polls, which aren't even correct, frankly. They're watching these polls and they're like, oh, Donald Trump is blowing everybody out of the water. And there's no doubt he is dogging everybody. But even those numbers, I question them. I would split those numbers in half. At least. But I think people look at those primary numbers and then special elections and they assume that Joe Biden is so bad and Trump is so far ahead that must mean that people want his policies. And so they're going to show up to vote. Don't take this country for granted. Get out and vote. Don't worry about the polls. Just get out and vote. All right, guys. Listen, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Again, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast. Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. Por favor. All right, we would certainly appreciate that. And remember, share this podcast with your friends and family. We'd appreciate that so much. And until next time, do not grow weary doing good. God bless you.